Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Face, our virtual classroom. Our sessions are designed with you in mind. Our goal is to support your child's learning and to offer you a variety of programs that help to build your knowledge and growth around various topics. Today, we're having a session by ISAC, which is the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. Our speakers today will be Ms. Olivia and Ms. Claudia. I will allow them to introduce themselves. Please go.
I'll start since I will be leading the presentation and then concede to Claudia. So my name is Olivia Sanchez. I work at the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. I am a parent outreach coordinator, and so my job is to help parents support their children through the college experience. So in these presentations, we're going to be talking about all that whole process. I have been with ISAC since December of 2019. And prior to this, I worked in nonprofit and workforce development. I have 2 kids that I like to spend my time with, and a rescue dog that I like to teach new tricks. And you may be able to hear him playing with his squeaky toy right now. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I am also the first generation first person in my family to go into and complete a degree in college. Claudia?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Claudia Ali, and I am also with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. I am also a parent outreach coordinator. We both started the same day, and we work together. Olivia usually does the presentations in English. I do the Spanish versions. And my background is very similar to Olivia's. The only difference is that I was born and raised in Mexico. I came here when I was about 19 years old. So my process of getting to college and finishing college was a little bit different from Olivia's. My path was not the traditional one. A career that was 4-year took me about 8 years, but I'm glad I was able to finish. And we're just happy that you guys could join us and just hear what we have for you guys. Thank you.
So we will get started. Full disclaimer, these 4 sessions, this is the first of 4 sessions. We will be doing these the next 3 months. Roughly, I believe it's the 3rd Wednesday of the month. With the exception of December because of the holiday break. But we'll be doing these sessions from 4 to 5, the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Usually this session is our last session, but we're starting it early because of the upcoming financial aid open enrollment or the enrollment for financial aid for seniors. And so we're starting with seniors. Usually we start freshman year and what your guide is, and then get into sophomore, junior, and then finish off senior year. But because of the FAFSA opening up, we're starting kind of backwards and kind of working our way back to freshman year. So these presentations are on supporting our children get ready for college and what parents should know in this transition period. High school, I mean, life is just kind of a transition for kids from the minute they enter any form of school through the rest of their life and getting into high school and college. Next slide, please. So just so that you know what the Illinois Student Assistance Commission is, we are a state agency that does college access and financial aid agency within the state, and we administer scholarship, grants, student loan repayments, forgiveness programs. Our mission is to provide Illinois students with information and assistance to help make education beyond high school accessible and affordable. Next slide, please. So as I said, this is the last of the 4 presentations. So as we get ready to apply for college, one of the first things that we would apply for is grants and need-based aid when it opens up, which is on October 1st. So one of the key aspects to making sure that we succeed in this process is accessing the financial aid to get to that process. But if we were to start the way that we have the session, We would start with, being persistent throughout, starting into freshman year. If you could start before that, that would be ideal. Putting in the effort that it takes to get to what it is that your academic goals and whatever it is that your child wants to achieve, and supporting your child in that aspect, and then investigating what colleges, what career paths, what interests your child has to get to that pathway. And then obviously one of the bigger components or ingredients within this is the financial aspect of it, because finances can be a big hurdle to get through. And so as a parent, in this transition from high school to college, it's very important to understand the process, because ultimately the student is the one that is responsible as they turn 18 and become a legal adult, where they have to continue this process with the assistance of the parents. But it's not the parents' role or job to complete this application process. It is the students. Next slide, please. So how do we get our hands on some financial aid during the senior year? One of the first things that we would say is visit our website. There's so many rich resources there for accessing grants, for using tools that are available. The sooner you access it, the better, so that you understand some of the terminology associated with some of the application process, which we would highly recommend that you visit our website. There's questions and answers part of within our website that you can see, frequently asked questions and the answers to those questions. One of the things that we could do now, as I said, October 1st is when the financial aid application opens up, but also for those of you that may not know, the alternative application also opens up. And what is the alternative application? The alternative application is the state application for students who are undocumented or have DACA, who have or meet a specific criteria. So there's information in regards to what that criteria is. Yes, you will be able to ask questions at the end of the presentation, Mark. So yes. So the alternative application is one that also opens up on October 1st. It's funds that are available through the state or for the state, for colleges and universities within the state, whereas the financial aid application is for, at the federal level, it accesses grants or money at the federal level, the state, and private institutions. So it does provide a little bit more accessibility in terms of need. But the alternative application is an alternative to applying for the federal grants if a student is undocumented or has a DACA status, if they meet the specific criteria for it. The application process is much like the financial aid application. And so there is specific criteria that needs to be met for a student to do it. The caveat with the alternative application, as I said, is that the student has to attend a college or university within the state of Illinois, because those are state funds that are available and they don't transfer over out of state. One of the things that can be done now before the application opens up on October 1st is the student FSA ID. And you could access that at studentaid.ed.gov for both the student and the parent, because that's going to be the electronic signature for both the student and the parent when they complete the application once it's open, when it opens up. So if you get started with setting that up before you actually start the application, that could be something to get you ahead of starting that on October 1st. There's different resources, as I said, if you visit our website, there's a ton of resources. But within it, there is a student portal that student has access to. If they go onto the CAPEX, they could see what the different scholarships are. They could create a profile and then look for scholarships based on their interests. There's so many different types of scholarships based on what the student wants to study. If they want to study anything within STEM, within science, technology, engineering, or math, or the arts, they could look for specific scholarships for that, if that's, any of those things are some of their interests. You could investigate the total cost of attendance. There's a calculator that's there so that you could budget for what it is the cost of, different colleges are. You could look through the different list of colleges and 4 universities on our site within the state of Illinois, if you want to be familiar with them. You could, once you get informed with them, you could also do virtual tours with them. There's so many resources that you could sit down at your desktop with your child to be able to investigate this and have a conversation with your child in regards to their interests. You could research again more information as to what federal, state, or institutional resources or aid there is. There are also private sources of financial aid within community-based organizations. There are some students who are looking to study business administration. There may be a collective group of them that have a nonprofit that award specific scholarships for students interested in those fields. As well as, you could visit your local library to see if there's any other resources that they may have, or any other companies, like Ford or McDonald's or anything like that. They may have their own scholarship at the national level, which may be more competitive, but those are options for you to look through. One of the things that we want to let you all know is that this is something that is offered through the state of Illinois that is completely free. And so if you are interested in accessing any of this service, you could visit our website and get all this information completely for free. There's no charge for it. Next slide. So what is financial aid? So financial aid, again, are funds that are available to the students who attend either two-year college or four-year college. So it's to access those funds depending on what the pace of your students' academic goals are. There may be some students that don't want to go straight into a four-year college. They may want to keep the costs down and go to a two-year college at the local level, or within the states, maybe not in their neighborhood, but within their states. And so that's what the financial aid money is for, to access that. It could be awarded in the form of grants, work study, scholarships, or loans. The financial aid is used to assist in covering the cost of attending college. There are some costs that may not be covered through the aid that you get, such as room and board at the college, and such as groceries or toiletries that a student may need if they stay in the dorm at a college or university. As well as gas and transportation and other costs. Financial aid comes from the federal government, from the states, and other educational and private institutions. And the funds can be based on merit and need-based. So merit would be academic. Your student gets excellent grades, and so they get what's considered a full ride to a particular university or a number of universities. And then there's also need-based, based on the income of the family and the size of the family. And so a student can access both of them depending on their household situation, or they could access one of them. So if you think that your child cannot afford college, there's so many different resources, so many things. Even at the higher income levels, if a student does not access financial aid based on need, they can access loans which they would not have available to them, where the government pays for those interests while they're in school, versus a person going to get loans financed at a bank to attend college or university. Next slide, please. And so what are the different types of financial aid? There's the gift aid, or money that you do not have to pay back, but there may be caveats with scholarships. There may be grades that need to be kept up in order for the scholarship to be in effect. And so, one of those things is making sure that you are aware of the scholarships and whether or not those scholarships are renewable. There may be some scholarships that are awarded 1 year and they don't renew themselves automatically. There may be scholarships that are tied to sports and not necessarily academics. And so, based on the student's grades, that scholarship, or based on the sport that they're playing, is, they have access to it. But if their grades suffer, then the scholarship can be pulled and they may not be able to play the sport that they're there for. Self-help aid is work study. So if your student decides to sign up for work study when they complete their financial aid application, that means that they need to apply and look for work on campus, so that they have the money, the funds that are available for them, and that the dollar amounts or what they end up getting paid can be money that they could use to pay for books or other things that are not covered in some of the grants or gift aid that they may be accessing. There's also loans, unsubsidized and subsidized loans that the student may have access to. There's a set dollar amounts that they have access to per year. And those are, money that would complete the total cost of attending college for students. Maybe some of the loans may be used for room and board if they want to stay in the dormitory at the college university. And so these are things to kind of be mindful of, because that is money that would have to be paid back 6 months after they complete their study. If they don't complete their study, then they still have to pay it back, even if they didn't get their degree. Claudia, do you have anything to add? I forgot to ask you about that. Okay, next slide, please. So with regards to, as I said, October 1st is coming up. And just so that you know, October 1st every year is when your student should apply or reapply for financial aid. This October 1st, if your student is a senior in high school, is when they would apply for this aid so that they get it awarded in the fall of next year when they start as a freshman at college or for university, whichever it is that they're attending or choose to attend. And so one of the first things, as I said, that you want to do for that electronic signature is your federal student aid identification, so that you could sign as a student and as a parent the application process. If a parent is of mixed immigration status, the student may have to print out the financial aid form, the signature page, and send it in. And the parent may not be able to do the FAFSA ID electronically. The FAFSA is the application that does open up on October 1st, which is one of the deadlines or one of the dates in which things open up for students. And then after that, there's the rolling deadline for colleges. Every college has a different deadline. There's a number of different colleges that your student could and should apply to. Once the financial aid application is completed, there's a student aid report or SAR that is sent to the students. There's the award letter that is also sent to the student that lets them know what money that they have received. Next slide, please. Oh, Claudia, you have a question, information to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that not only the FAFSA is open on October 1st, but also the alternative application for students without a social security number or the DACA students.
So the Federal Student Aid ID or FAFSA ID is again used to electronically sign the financial aid application. It can be created anytime before October 1st. So right now is the perfect time to go in and create it. You and your child will each need to have that application, that ID, sorry, not application, but that ID, as I said, so that you could use it to apply for this, the financial aid application this year and in the next 4 years to come, 4 or 5 years, or depending on how long your student is in school. Again, with students who have family members with mixed immigration status, there may be an application that they have to print and send in for that signature page. With the alternative application, that's not, they could create what's the equivalent of an FAFSA ID for the alternative application and do it electronically, because it is only awarding state dollars, not federal dollars. And it does, again, limit the pool of colleges or universities to just state institutions, not anything outside the state, because that is money that is awarded through the state, and the money basically stays within the state. Next slide, please. So as you get your hands on this, again, when is it? October 1st. You want to remind yourself of this every year, because once your student completes their freshman year of college, the following October 1st that they start college freshman year, they apply for the following year. So it's an ongoing process that they have to do, and they are responsible for that, not the parents. They require the information, the income information from the parents, but the student is the one that is to complete the application with the financial information from the parents. Who applies for it? High school seniors and college students, college students returning sophomore, junior, senior year of college are the ones who apply every year for it. And how do they do it? Basically, everything is done online. You do have access to a printed application if you so desire, but it does take longer for the application to be processed. And why do we do this application? Again, to have access to more dollars at the federal level, at the state level, through private and public institutions, to make sure that you are awarded as much money as you can based on both grades and need, based on the income and the size of the family. Do you have anything that you want to share, Claudia?
I just wanted to add that the last portion where that we recommend to fill it out is because some institutions use it to award institutional aid. Sometimes people might think that they're not going to qualify for the regular grants or the financial aid, and they don't want to fill it out. But some institutions, if you don't fill the FAFSA out, they will not offer you the institutional aid that they might have. One of the other things that I want to mention is that over the summer of this year, it is a mandate that the students in senior year fill out the FAFSA application.
And this is whether or not they plan on going to college. There's so much money that the state is offered at the federal level that money can be awarded within the state of Illinois through the monetary award program that ISAC manages. And so if the student applies for financial aid and they're not sure whether or not they're going to go to college or what the final situation is going to be once they graduate, if they apply on October 1st, that basically awards them a dollar amount. So it kind of puts them in as on hold for that dollar amount. If at the end of the school year they decide they don't want to go to college, then that money gets put back into the pot of money that the state can reissue for someone that applies late. But there's no guarantee that if someone applies in June, once they graduate, that they will have access to those funds if those funds are depleted completely. So that's why we say, you know, whether or not you're completely sure on what it is that your future holds, apply for it once it becomes available on October 1st, so that you can reserve that dollar amount towards whatever it is that your future goal may be, in case that does happen, because then you don't have to take the money if you decide not to go to college. But it's harder to access some of those funds if you decide to wait till the last minute. Next slide, please. So the different parts of the free application for federal student aid, which is what FAFSA stands for. There's a number of different steps, but the first part of the application is it collects the information on the student. So the name, gender, address, those basic demographic information about the student. The next thing that it does is it collects student financials. If the student worked or had a part-time job or anything like that, they would collect that information. If the student didn't, then that wouldn't be information that would be relevant in this application. Student dependency status, on whether or not the student depends on finances or any living situation with the parents, would be collected, or questions that are answered for that part or that step of the process. Parent demographics and financials. So again, the name of the parent, the information with regards to the parents, and then their financial information, everything related to any financials that they have. There's quite a number of different questions that are asked that may be confusing to a lot of students. And so this is where some of the students may have questions in regards to this, and we have ISACorp members that help the students, again, because the students are the ones that are mainly responsible for the application process. They just need the financial information from the parents. And some of that information can be extracted from the IRS if the parent does complete their IRS. The application electronically pulls that information once they did do their taxes to collect that information. So it's not necessarily looking at a tax return from the students. And so those are the things that you want to kind of be mindful of in step 4. Step 5 is whether or not the student is independent or considered independent, and other information that the student, questions that the student will have to answer during that process to prove that they are not depending or living with their parents and are solely responsible and can maintain a roof over their heads on their own, or whatever their situation may be. It could be that they're independent because they're homeless, and so having to prove that aspect is one of the things that they would work with an ISACorp member to fill and complete this application process. There's also school selections and housing preferences, whether or not the student wants to or will be needing aid to stay in the dorm, whether or not they have a mixture of two-year colleges or four-year universities. And so those are the list of things. Once the application is completed, whatever the limitations is with the number of schools that can be placed on there, the students, once they get the student aid report, the student can go back in and add a number of more schools within it. I think the limit is, I want to say like 5 schools. So once they complete that and they have the codes for them, and they get their student aid report, the student can go back into the application and add more schools onto that list. And the reason why the student is adding those schools to that list is so that the schools have access to this information, this financial information, because this is in essence the vetting process for the students and the parents to make sure that the students actually exist, that there's information or record of them. And so once they have that information, the schools can then offer the students more aid based on the grades or based on the need of the students if they have this information. And one of the last things that the students will need and the parents is the signatures. And again, the signatures depend on the legal status of the parents. If the parent is undocumented, then the student will have to print the application and complete it with a physical signature from the parent and mail it in, or they either residency or U.S. status, either by naturalized citizen or born, then they could just use the FAFSA ID to complete that signature page and send it in electronically to get processed. And again, this application is available in Spanish too. Claudia, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Next slide, please. Sorry, I muted myself. So once the student receives a student aid report via email, because most things are done electronically, very few things are done through snail mail now. That application will have the information about what eligibility for financial aid the student has. It will include information about what was submitted or the questions, the answers to the questions that were part of the FAFSA application. And it will contain the expected family contribution or what the school and the federal government feel that the parents can pay for or contribute towards meeting the goals of completing their academic goals for that year. Again, this is the year because it's something that's renewed every year. So this is just the year. It's not for the 4 years or 2 years of college or university. So make sure that you sit down with your students, your child, to review all the information, how they answered. If there's any corrections or anything that needs to be changed, you want to get on top of that to be able to change and correct that. Because again, some of those things you want to make sure that you stay on top of so that everything is completed accurately, so that once it's time for colleges, the application for colleges, universities in the winter time, that your student has this aspect, kind of the financial aspect down and done before other deadlines come up in the next quarter. Claudia, do you have anything that you want to add?
I just wanted to mention that for those students who are filling out the FAFSA this October 1st, the students are going to need the parents' information for the W-2s from the 2020. So they're going to be filling out the FAFSA application in 2021 using the taxes from 2020. And this is for the school year of 2021-2022. So just be aware of those little details. And if something happens from the time that the student applies for financial aid to the time that they start college, which will be next year in August, September, it is recommended that, to notify the financial aid office of the college that they will be attending, so they know that there was a change in the source of income So they might have to do some adjustments, and the student might qualify for more financial aid.
Thank you for that. And again, that is something that is done at the student aid office at whatever college or for university the student is attending. Once they, they accept the enrollment at whatever 2 or 4 year college. Next slide, please. And so between December and the summer, your child will receive financial aid award letter from each of the colleges that they applied to and they got admitted to. You want to compare the financial aid packages. They're not all going to be the same. Every college has a cost of attendance, which is going to vary. At the state level, state institutions are going to be priced differently than private institutions, than a 2-year college versus a 4-year college. So you want to keep those things in mind with your child as you're comparing these things. One of the important things to look for again is, figuring out which college or 2-year college or 4-year university your student wants to attend based on their interest of studying. So you want to compare those packages and then, sit down with your child to help your child choose what college they will attend, because distance may be something that you may want to discuss with your child, keeping them closer, or how far they can go from you or want to go from you. You and your child can use the financial aid comparison worksheet or the toolbox that's in our student portal. If you do student portal, you could search ISAC student portal and see the resources that your student has access to. There's a toolbox there that gives you budgeting. It gives you the CAPAX link so that you could look into scholarships, and it also lets you know who the ISACorp members are within your area to help you with the application process for financial aid. And then it gives you information so that you can, if you and your child want to sit down because you don't understand what the award letters are and you want to sit down with an ISACorp member to kind of discuss that, once you receive it, you're more than welcome to share that information with them so that you have a better understanding as to what that is. And then your child, once they do receive that award letter, they can find out what the financial aid packages are. You can decide whether or not you want to accept all of the aid or a portion of it. You don't have to accept it all. For instance, there may be calculations that are done where based on either a sport, merit, or need-based, your student receives a good financial package where in the first year they cover just about everything but $2,000 of financial aid, and the school says that part of the covering the full cost is maybe a $2,000 student loan. However, maybe you have put away some money for your child to attend college or university, and you want to use that money towards that. That may be something that you want to let them know so that your child doesn't accept loans that they don't need because it's something that you can pay. Depending on the dollar amount, the school does also offer you. They usually offer you, the financial aid office at the school that your student decides to attend may offer you a payment plan for that $2,000 within the year so that you can make payments every month so that your student doesn't incur or accept a loan that you don't want them to. So that's something that you want to discuss with your child. Everything has a deadline, so you want to make sure that you return and let the college or university know before the deadline so that they have enough time to calculate and apply whatever payment plans, if that is the payment plan that you want to do. But you have this discussion and you meet the deadlines as they come through. Next slide.
One of the things, sorry, Olivia, one of the things that I want to emphasize on this slide is that Olivia mentioned previously that it is important for the students to add as many schools as possible. It is recommended that at least 5 schools to be added on the application, just because that way when you get the award letter, you have the opportunity to sit down with your parents, or the parents can have the opportunity to sit down with their children and compare the financial aid packages that each school has to offer for the student. So that's one of the main reasons we recommend that the students pick at least 5 schools of their interest. So that way they can compare the packages.
Next slide, please. So this is an example of an award letter. It's going to have general information on what the estimated cost of attendance is, what the tuition and fees, housing, any books, again, a list of different things that are available to the students and the costs associated with it. So it starts to break stuff down as to how do you get to this 55,000 as it is in the example here, what things, different items cost so that you could see it. But then the other aspect in the pink that's highlighted in the pink, the little rectangle at the bottom where it says award, there's scholarships, there's grants at the federal level, the Pell Grants, MAP grants at the state level, student work study, subsidized, unsubsidized loans. So it calculates all of those things and you could see, where stuff is or dollar amounts are applied to at what level to get to covering the full cost of attendance for the students. Again, what is not calculated there is if your student is going to a school out of state, it doesn't calculate transportation. So your child coming home for spring break, winter break, or any other time in which they're homesick, that's not going to be calculated in this cost of attendance. The toiletries that your student is going to need to, brush their teeth, toothpaste, toothbrushes, bed sheets, electronic devices, whether that's a computer or a television or refrigerator or microwave for their dorm, all those things are not calculated in this cost of attendance. Their daily meals are not calculated in this. You want to, some schools may list how much the packages are. You decide how frequently your child is going to be eating. If they're going to have 2 or 3 meals a day, there's a cost associated with it. So they have access to the food, but you have to pay for the food just like you do with your child in elementary or high school. There's a lunch and you have to pay for the lunch that your child receives at those schools. So, the university is the same thing. You have to factor in if they want groceries or other things that they may not want at the cafeteria at school. So all of these things are things that are not factored into the cost of attendance that you want to be mindful of when you sit down with your child. Anything else that I may have missed, Claudia?
Just to mention that the award letter is similar to the FAFSA. So this is once a year. Once a year, you will receive the award letter based on that year that you're applying to. I recently had a parent who called me about this issue, and she thought it was the award letter for the 4 years her child was going to be at the university. So this award letter is for just 1 year of college. And one of the other things I want to mention that this is just an example of an award letter. Each institution has different ways of communicating this information to the student.
Thank you. Next slide. So again, this is the first of 4 presentations. So we have 3 more in the next 3 months. We started with the end to get to success. So we will be going back in reverse. So investigation in terms of the different colleges and what is the right fit for your students. If it's a 2-year or 4-year college, the effort or things that you could do to plan for your students getting into college. So looking into honors classes, AP classes, classes that are specific to science, math, or technology, depending on what course of study your student is interested in, and the perseverance, just continuing to kind of push through and keep going with whatever academic goals that your child has as they start freshman year. Because again, we're working our way back from senior year. Next slide, please. So with a little patience and perseverance, everything is possible. So again, determination, making sure that you are persistent with your child and making sure that they know what goals they want and help them meet those goals. Access to or continue to cheer for them as they move through high school to get to whatever it is that their academic goals are, or is, if it's just one goal. It's very important to be your child's kind of cheerleader in that process, because it's not just getting into college, it's completing. And not everybody has a straight road to get to college. Some of us have a scenic route where it may take a few more years than the 4 years that traditionally may take someone. So there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone, goes through the process a little different. Do you want to share anything, Claudia? Next slide. Which is the end of the presentation, and now we're open to questions. This is our contact information. Again, both Claudia and I are parent outreach coordinators. both our emails, mobile, and office phone number. We are working remotely, so our mobile number would be the best one to reach us at. You can leave us a message on our office, and we have access to it via email, and we will return your calls. Just give us a little bit of time. Any questions?
I just want to add that if some parents don't like to have a conversation on the phone, so we do actually have a line that is just for text messaging only. I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys. This line is answered by Olivia or myself. The first message will be kind of like an automated message, but then after that message, we will just continue the conversation.
Hi, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
I'm trying to find out. I typed it in the chat box, but I wasn't sure if you all had got to it, and if so, I didn't hear the response. I'm trying to find out. I have a senior now, and I know he's anxious to start filling out, for us to start filling out that FAFSA form when it starts. But my concern is we're in the process of a move. So would it be okay to start the beginning when the forms are, when the form is just being opened, or should I wait until I have the new address so that there's no confusion?
I would say it depends on how long you're going to wait for the move. Like if the move is not until
It's
November,
like maybe a week or so after it drops.
I would say, excuse me for that. I would say you could wait the week and then apply.
Okay.
It's still within the first week of when the application actually opens up. And so, the pot of money that's available is not going to be depleted in a week.
Okay, thank you.
And you might not be able to finish in 1 week too, because sometimes there might be like information that you don't have handy and you might have to wait. So we hear people saying that it takes like 1 to 3 days, 1 to 5 days, and sometimes it might take a little longer depending on the information that you don't have available at the moment.
But I can start the process of him adding the schools. We won't lose our progress. I guess that's the concern I'm saying. So if we start it, when it opens up, the progress will be automatically saved.
Yes, it will. And you could start now by doing the FAFSA ID for you and your son, because that is where you're going to be. That's what you're going to use to electronically sign the application. So you and your son can start that now.
Okay, thank you.
Mark asked the question if the slides can be shared with those who are attending today.
I believe we're recording this, so if they go to your YouTube, your bit.ly YouTube link, they could re-see or visit this application or this video and see the slides. We're not sharing them via email. The presentation is the way in which we're sharing the slides. So I think that would be the best way for us to do it. Then you have the access there. If reading the slides doesn't always give you all the information, because we do give a little bit more as we're presenting. And again, Claudia and I are accessible via text message, via email, via voicemail. We have our 8:30 to 4 o'clock work schedule, but we work, non-traditional hours because we know parents work. They may be working the same time that we're working and have questions in the evening or on the weekend. So if you want to text us on the weekend or email us whenever it is that you think of it, or text us whenever it is that you think of it so that you can get the question out, then we'll reply in whatever format you contacted us. So we are accessible. We also do presentations on the weekends and in the evenings if that's something that you're interested in. One of the other things that I want to say is we're also doing informal chats or conversations with parents to get into specific terminology. FAFSA is not something that rolls off the tongue for everyone, and not everyone knows what the actual application looks like. And even if you went to school and you've applied for it when it was on paper, it's a little bit different and challenging electronically. And so we, as parents, we want to be able to provide as much information to parents so that as a parent, you all know what it is that is going to be expected for your students. in the years to come as they, transition into this process. Because it can be very stressful in their very last year of high school. It's not just, the financial aid application deadlines, it's college deadlines, it's, prom, homecoming, all these social activities and other things that can be very stressful on a student. And so one of the things that, we want to provide is this information to parents so that parents know how to best support their child. We know our child best and what are some of the stressors and triggers for them and how we can help them, facilitate calmness and getting through some of the process for all of this. And so, that is our objective. We don't go through specifics on how to complete the financial aid application. The ISACorp members do, because it's the student's role to finish that aspect because they are legally adults. When my daughter went to college, the financial aid person at the office told me, this is your daughter's responsibility. We just need your financial information. She's responsible for it. So, it's a little upsetting that, yeah, you're taking my financial information, but I have no access to viewing it unless she gives me permission. So that's a big transition as a parent that, there's some things that are required of you, but it's ultimately your child's responsibility. Any other questions?
There are no more questions in the chat, and I want to thank you and Ms. Claudia for coming today and for sharing this valuable information with us. I would like to remind those of you who are here and those who will be watching the video that this is one in a 4-part series, so please come back in the following months. Also, we invite you to visit our website, cpsparentview.org, for more information on different programming. Follow us on social media at CPS Parent View on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We love for you to sign up to receive news of upcoming workshops, including those other 3 from ISAC on getting those kids in college. Is very important. My final words are that these classes are recorded and can be found on our YouTube channel, bit.ly/FaceYouTube. And the link will be shared in the chat. Again, I thank Ms. Olivia and I thank Ms. Claudia for coming out and sharing this valuable information with us